How do we keep students engaged? It's tricky because every student is different. Different backgrounds, different experiences, and different levels of motivation. Traditional teaching methods can leave them feeling confused, intimidated, left out, unheard, alone, discouraged. Top Hat's dynamic courseware helps you personalize your teaching to resonate with all students. In your lectures, in your assignments, and even in your textbooks. You can create learning moments that matter to your students. With 14 question types, you can drive real-time understanding, encourage active participation, and give every student a voice. The more your students engage with Top Hat, the more insights you get into their performance, giving you more opportunities to adapt your course as the semester unfolds. This helps students build confidence and drive better comprehension. How do we keep students engaged? The answer is right in front of you. Top Hat. Make every mind wonder.
We're back. Well, we hope you enjoyed the break. And the camp directors asked me to pass along some housekeeping items. First of all, if you're just joining us for your first summer camp session, we're glad to have you. Second, please refrain from roughhousing in your cabins. You know who you are. Or setting a new record for the worst case of poison ivy. Again, you know who you are. And please be sure to hang up those wet towels. If you're just joining us again, we're really delighted to have you. It's time for our final installment of today's program, and we've got two really wonderful faculty members here to share how they launched the learning journey and some of their go-to practices that they use for building community and connection with their students. You're also going to get to see a demo of how they use some of their go-to features that our guests will be touching on today. And your host for today is Michael D. Gregorio, Top Hat's Director of Client Education, who is also our go-to for campfire sing-alongs and telling ghost stories that have been known to keep campers up for days. Welcome, Michael, and over to you.
Thank you, Eric, for the kind introduction. Thank you, everybody, for joining us at summer camp today. Eric, would you like me to stop the presentation or push the slides?
Yeah, if you'd like to take over presenting, that would be great.
Awesome.
Give you the power, Michael.
Have you? Okay. I'm sorry to do this live, Eric. I don't see the. Do you want me to stop the current presentation and then?
Yeah, you can take over and drive the slides. It should.
Okay, I haven't done this in Zoom in a while.
We do use Google Meet a fair bit here, so we're a little bit rusty sometimes, and it's getting back into Zoom.
Wonderful. Okay, here we go. Great. Okay, thank you, everyone. It's my pleasure to be with you today. My name is Mike D. Gregorio. I lead the instructional design team, and I promise you we are better at training on Top Hat than I was at using Zoom right there. It's a real pleasure to be with everybody at summer camp again this year. I want to start out by thinking through this idea of targeting change and really engaging students. And I've learned from our Chief Academic Officer, Brad Cohen, over the years that the job of student engagement can tend to be siloed across universities, and the focus on the core educational experience can often be forgotten, and course development can be forgotten when thinking about improving student engagement across campus. Who wouldn't want to have that feeling of relentless welcome that James Lang introduced to us in the last session? So our two speakers today really will be focusing on this idea of welcome and engagement, and both Sam and Donna have done a fantastic job of welcoming students into their class and setting the tone for student engagement. I want to introduce a couple of frameworks that our instructional design team uses to help launch the learning journey and also help instructors engage students right from day one. So first are these three ideas of motivation, feedback, and insight. And when we work with professors who are either new to Top Hat or who are returning to Top Hat, we ask them, what are the things that you want to motivate students to do before class and during class? Are students aware of them? And you ask yourself this question really intentionally. And then what feedback do you want on the activities that students are doing? What feedback do you want students to have? What are the low stakes assessments and the consistent assessments that you'll be doing to measure learning so that way you know how the learning journey is proceeding? And then finally, what are the insights you would like from all of that feedback that you're getting? What are the improvements you would like to make, be they small or big? And if you can ask these questions consistently, if you can have answers to them, you can really formulate a full and a wonderful learning experience for your students. I also like thinking about these three ideas because they form a nice background for the three sets of programming that we'll have over the next few weeks of summer camp. Today, we'll be talking a lot about engagement, and then the next couple of weeks, we'll also focus on feedback, consistent feedback, and how to leverage insights in the classes that you're teaching. Another very nice and simple to apply framework that we use to design courses and redesign courses is, again, a set of three questions. Simply, how do you want learners interacting with learners in the course, with the instructor in the course, and then with the content itself in the course? And then in addition to these questions, we should be thinking about how interaction is happening inside and outside of class across all of these, three areas. And thankfully, Top Hat can help you fill in all of these boxes on this table, right? And so outside of class, how are students interacting with other learners? Through discussions, through class threads, that the fantastic feature that Claire introduced us to in the first session today. How are they interacting with you through online office hours, through discussions, the answer feedback that you can embed right within Top Hat, the very, very nice ways for them to interact with you outside of class. And then, of course, with the content itself, thinking through, the ACE study assistant and so on, note taking that students can do throughout, the Top Hat platform. All of these are very, very nice ways to bring engagement to the outside of class experience. And then within class, group questions, in-class questions. Our speakers today are going to speak a lot about this, and so I'll leave it to the experts. But there's many, many features that Top Hat has that can help create a really coherent and comprehensive learning experience from end to end. So I do want to now introduce a Zoom poll, and because we'll be talking a lot about engagement, would love to know what the most significant barrier is to engagement in your class. Is it lack of student interest, large class sizes? So please go ahead and answer the poll. And if it's something that we haven't thought of here, go ahead and please reply in the chat. See some others in the chat. Student preparation, learning differences. Yes, the lack of student prep. So this is I have to admit, this is one that has been on top of mind for many of us at Top Hat. Readiness overall, especially in first year classes, is a big topic of conversation. So let's see what the poll says for the results. Lack of student interest. Okay, well, I think given the expertise of our two speakers today and the barrier that was the clear winner in the poll, I'm very happy to turn it over to Professor Donna Smith, Professor of Mathematics at Sierra College. Donna also has the distinct honor of being the very first professor that we ever had speak at the very first summer camp. So I feel as if we're in the presence of a true summer camp royalty, senior counselor, as it were. So thank you, Professor Smith, for being here. I love learning from you, and so I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I want to tell everyone how excited I am to be here, to be able to share. I love Top Hat. I am not ashamed to admit my awesome bias toward it. And I also want to thank Mike for doing such a great job, and Eric Gardner for holding my hand, and Samantha sharing with me. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and go ahead and let you know a little bit about myself. I accidentally had checked something off, so just don't pay attention to that first screen you see right at first. But it's gonna all work out. You know how you're prepping a little bit, and I forgot that when I do that, that's the screen that shows up. All right, here we go. All right. I teach at Sierra College. It's a small community college, not a small community college, but a community college in Northern California. And most of my students are paranoid of math. In fact, they have an acronym called MAV, which is mental abuse. Hold on, I'm trying to get rid of this little screen here that's showing there. Mental abuse to humans. And so I have to work with that group to let them know, no, it's not that. And so it's so cool that I actually use that Top Hat feature, and I put that up as a Likert scale question. And that Likert scale question asks them, do they strongly agree with that statement? Do they disagree and agree, neutral? Those combinations that you have available on Top Hat. And then I ask a follow-up question of why. And so immediately off the bat, I get those students who are paranoid about being in my class, scared about being in the class, need the class to graduate, has already failed the course 2 or 3 times. And I get them an opportunity to share because it's a word answer, it's anonymous, so I can show it to the class what everyone said their why was. And it's really cool for them to kind of almost answer their own question. It can happen if we put in our effort and then we have a teacher that cares. So bam, I start off right out the gate with my excitement, because that really does bypass the conscious mind. When you're excited, it's like, what did I get talked into? And so they leave the class thinking, oh my gosh, I can do this math. So at the bottom of my email, I have a little quote that I have about math. And it says, math is one of the most powerful, one of the most beautiful, elegant, captivating, and powerful gifts. Oh, that we would unveil its beauty and would see, and that you would trust me to see what I see. And then what I did is I went out to Top Hat's ACE and I said, okay, make a poem from this quote. And so we learned earlier, for those of you that were here for the early part of the presentation, that Top Hat ACE is a new AI-powered teaching and learning assistant designed to help us as faculty create questions that are engaging for the students. And it also does poems. So I want you to see this poem. Also, too, I see that I'm showing the bottom of my screen here. Here we go. All right. So here's my poem. In numbers and symbols, a world to explore, a universe of patterns and endless lore, with elegance and grace and equations unfold, revealing secrets both new and old, captivating minds with logic so pure, a journey through math, a path to endure. Trust in my guidance, let curiosity lead. Together we'll uncover the knowledge you need, for math is a gift, a treasure to find, unlocking the wonders, expanding the mind. So take my hand, let's start this quest to unveil this beauty and discover the best. Isn't that pretty cool? I did it also in ChatGPT. I liked ACEs better. So I don't know about you. Can you put in the chat if you had a poem like that for your students? Would they say, oh my goodness, if she's either on something, and if she is, I want to get on it too so I can be happy about math. Would that make a difference if you had that kind of start to your class? All right, so as a teen, I went to camp. I was so fortunate. I went to Gurneyville. That's in Northern California. It's really beautiful. A friend had a cabin there, and I loved going to that camp. And so I'm hoping for you that are here today, if you're first-time attendees, that you're going to think, oh my goodness, if this is what Top Hat Summer Camp's about, I'm all over it. And if you're one that's been before, like I was, the very first one, in fact, one of the things I'm going to share, I learned at a Top Hat conference. And so it's so cool, the things that you can pick up at Top Hat, and honest to goodness, I use it the very next day. So I love that. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to share a little bit about the first day and beyond, and even before. And what that does is it sets the tone for our class and for our students. So I'm going to share a little bit about an in-class activity that mimics the class structure that he talked about and sets the tone and great way for students to meet one another. And then the getting to know you survey, and then my interactive syllabus. And I know that I think Mike shared this already, but questions are welcome and we'll have some time at the end to answer them. So I want to talk about the in-class activity that mimics the class structure, sets the tone, and a great way to meet class mates. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the chat, and I tested this out. I use Text Expander where you can just type in Z shoe and it asks, what is your shoe size? So everybody in the chat put in, what is your shoe size? And you can see it. I forgot I'm not sharing the screen the old way. Where you only share with the screen shows everything you can see, all right? All right, so some of you are putting in your shoe size. Well, what I do is I have students come up to me and I place these statistics questions on their backs. And so, for example, on my back would be, what is your shoe size? So the student comes around, they read the question, they shake my hand and say, hi, Mike, my name is Donna, and I'm going to answer the question. And professor has already cued us on not giving any units, not giving any sizes, not giving any dimensions, because otherwise, if you say feet, inches, miles, that'll give the question away. The student that they're facing, they don't know what the question is on their back. They just know there's a question on the back, and the person that they just now meeting are saying, okay, 8.5, 7.5, 3, 4, and whatever the shoe size is. And what this does is it introduces the content of the course, which is we're going to be looking at data, one part of statistics, and figuring out the different types of numbers we have, looking at variability. So you're introducing a concept, but this is the kicker. As they're meeting one another and answering the questions, the person who has the question on their back, what they're going to do is they're going to write on a index card the answer, 7.5, 3, 4, and so forth. And so I'm just going to go ahead and put in another question in the chat. All right. And I wish you weren't seeing this so it could be more smooth. Okay, so and then how many pets do you have? And what's happening now is now I'm going to talk to them about the variability of the answers. And at the end, I'm going to have each student say, okay, tell me what you got for your answers on your index card. And then what I want you to do is tell me if you can guess your question. And so here is the last one I'll put in the chat. I figured out how you guys can't see me. So there, all right. And so on a scale of 1 to 10, how nervous are you? So it's a wonderful activity to do in class. Then I tie it into the big picture that Jim Lang was talking about. Well, why do we care about numbers and this? Because we're tying it to the fact that this is descriptive statistics, describing the data, describing variability, and then we're going to tie it through the marriage of probability to inferential statistics. So it's really a cool first day activity. Mike, I looked at the clock at 12:28 my time, so I think that's 3:28 your time. So cue me if I'm going over my 12 minutes, because I think I have till 12:40. All right. So I also do on the first day of class a check-in, and this is something I'm going to be using all throughout the semester. And it's also letting them get introduced to how to use Top Hat. And so this is a click on target. So I stole this, of course, from Top Hat Engage in San Diego the very next day when I returned to class, not the next day, because I don't teach every day, Tuesday, Thursday. When I returned back to campus on Tuesday, I did this check-in, and it was really cool to use a click on target rather than just a multiple choice. And you could see the hot spots of students. And then I would ask, can anyone want to share why? Sometimes I'll do it on Top Hat where it is anonymous word answer, or sometimes I'll just ask them point blank. It depends on the size of the class or how they're feeling. And sometimes, guess what? They're starting to feel this connection, this groove that they can be honest and transparent because I'm authentic. Guess what? They start just volunteering why. And it's so cool because then I can point them to resources that are available to them if they know my computer crashed or whatever might have happened in their life. So that sends the message that I care and that there's resources not only that the campus provides, but you have a teacher that if she doesn't know, will find out. Let's see what I can do. Next, I like to do is the Getting to Know You survey. Now, I've used one, and you'll have access to this slide deck, and you'll see here it says Getting to Know You survey. That's a link that'll take you out to my Top Hat course with this particular survey. But I personally like the one that my colleague came up with. What it does is it fosters awareness. In other words, I know what's going on with you because I know something about you. It provides that two-way interaction because I do respond to their questions. Now, granted, I have a small class so that you might have a class with 300 students. So what I'll do if it's a large class, which I did one time when I had 3 statistics sections put together and I had 90 students, I'll make a video and I will kind of summarize, and you can use a Top Hat ACE to do that. These are the responses. Can you summarize these within 5 bullet points? And so then what I'll do is I'll say, these were the 5 areas where students had trouble or had concerns. And that way it shows that, oh, she is aware, she is engaged. I'm just not answering some question like, oh my gosh, is she gonna really care what I put down? And this shows that we do care. So I'll make a video of me going through each of their responses or going through that summary point and sharing with them, this student had this issue last semester, and guess what? They got an A in the course, and this is what they did and what they had to do to make it happen. So I wanna show you an example of this survey. So let's go out to my survey by my colleague, Lynn Harrison Benavides. She gave me permission to share this. Isn't that so cool? On Top Hat, all you do is click the link and it'll show up to the exact page of where you need to go. I think that is just, I don't know why I get so excited about little things like that, because I'm a nerd. I'm a nerd. Don't tell. Well, you kind of already know. Or you also know that I like orange. All right, so here she's talking about a little bit about me, sharing about her family, being authentic and transparent. And you can be only so transparent. You don't want to accuse students by telling them too much. And then thinking that, oh my goodness, my teacher has mental issues, which I do, and I admit it. But I usually kind of do it later in the semester, that I did struggle, especially with COVID. I didn't realize how I was, I had a name for it with my sister. I forgot the name that I had, but I had a special name for it. I called it COVID spinning. I was just doing. And later on in the semester, I will be transparent this year, I really struggled, you guys. This was really tough for me. So anyway, then you go into about you, but I want to hit this 4th question that she has on here. And I really like this one, your passion. What are you passionate about? And this is a cool thing because in a small class, I can respond. For example, if a student says, I like cycling. Now, I don't cycle. But my brother-in-law does. He just did a 100-mile trek from the Bay Area up to Sacramento, and he had to go through a hard part by Vacaville. And oh my goodness, his tire went flat, and it was 100 degrees, burning up. But I can share that story. And so that's me connecting with that student. Even though I'm not a cyclist, I know something about it. I know that my sister did it too, and that she spent $1 bajillion on this fancy dancy bike that measures every possible thing about your body so that the bike fits you. Oh my goodness, like a shoe. And so that's cool. Another student sent a picture with flowers and sent a picture with flowers in the background, because sometimes on Top Hat, you can have them upload an image. And so when they sent the pictures with the flowers, even though I'm a plant killer, don't judge me. I do have 2 that are living. My sister is a master gardener, and my mother had 40 rose bushes, and they were beautiful rose bushes that she took care of when she could keep the deer out, because to them, roses are like truffles. But sharing that passionate question and then responding to the students, either in group, if it's a large class, or individually, makes all the difference in the world. I think I can get so much out of my students is because I have that connection. All right. Next, we're going to go on to my interactive syllabus. I have an imperfect welcome video. If you go out to click the link or imperfect welcome video, you'll see that I make some mistakes out there. You'll also see my hair is different. I'm so vain. That's what happens when you're vain. I've always dyed my hair, and then I got allergic to the dye. But you know what? I kind of like like my white curls. Look wisdom-like, but you know, I can't fake my age before I could kind of get away. But anyway, this imperfect video, it shows my enthusiasm, my excitement, and this works especially well for my students who are online, but I also have it for my students who are on ground. And I had so many students, because at the bottom of this interactive syllabus, I asked the question, hey, how did you feel about this? Was this helpful? Did you have any questions? And many of them said that this was so helpful and clearly laid out. So this sets the tone that she's on top of it. She has it laid out. She has a game plan. And guess what? So you better stick with the plan. And I love it. Then I have the first week success tips. And then I have the pact and the wisdom wall and my high standards. And so I don't call it high standards to them, but by now they're connected to me. They're loving on me a little bit. They're thinking, hey, I can trust her. She's cool. And so now I lay it on them. You have to do all this content before you can take the final, and you can't pass the course without the final. But I know that if they do that, explaining the why of it, as Jim Lang explained, went over, explaining the why of why I want them to do all of this content before they can take the final is because I'm expecting you to get an A or a B. I'm not expecting you to pass through. I'm not expecting you to kind of flake out. And I'm going to provide the resources for you to do that. So let me just show you one thing, because I have DeGregorio. How many minutes do I have? I think I'm at my 12-minute mark.
Yeah, I think you're okay for 1 or 2 minutes.
Okay.
I can cover for you at the end. I'm great with time.
All right, cool. All right. So I want to show you this pact. And the word pact has peace at its roots because it's often ends a period of unfriendly relations. The word generally used in the field of international relations, where diplomats may speak of an arms pact, a trade pact. Unlike adversarial relationships that require a pact, our use of the term represents a partnership with a promise between you and me, like when two parties shake hands on a deal, and peace is at the root, not because our relationship is unfriendly, because you know what I expect of you. And guess what? You get to share what you expect of me. So it's such a cool thing to have this as part of my interactive syllabus. And so I have some things listed. I'll just read one here. I will provide a positive and inclusive learning environment because I value diversity. It's the spice of life. Can you imagine a world where we're all the same? I think it would be a sad day to have a world just full of Donnas. We need all of us. And it's just so cool. And so I think when you share these things about the pact and all the things that I'm going to do, and I have a part on here, what I expect from you. Yeah, I do. Because I think we need to do that so students will know that this is what we expect. So that pact is just awesome. And then the wisdom wall is another neat feature that I love. The wisdom wall is where students from previous semesters have come in and said to me, I asked the question, what would you tell a younger you? You finished the course, what would you tell yourself you would do to be more successful? Or if you did everything right, tell me what you did that was right. And so I have the wisdom wall, and these are the things that students share. And I ask them questions on this page. What tip did you get from Jennifer? What tip did you get from Amy? And so when they give me some bogus tip that they Googled and it's not tied to this, that's an issue. Also, ACE is smart. If you have a question on here, on your page, and you have a student that copies the question and they paste it in the ACE, it knows you copied it and it won't give you the answer. Is that just too cool? All right. So I do have a welcome email, and I'll let you look through that in the link. And I believe in contacting my online students several times. So I email them. I also text them, and then I also send a phone bite where basically I record one message and upload their phone numbers, and it calls with my voice saying, hi, this is Professor Smith. I'm so excited to have you in my class. I also send them a text message. I know it's overkill. And a lot of people don't believe in doing text messages, but it's worked for me for the last 15 years. And I just like it. Emails make me nervous when you have the same email from 18 students because you posted something wrong. And I just love the fact that I can answer it right away, fix it, because I love those, my little C personalities, details. They'll find that error, fix it. And I thank them publicly in an email to everyone. Thank you for catching that. And that concludes my presentation. So thank you so much for having me.
Donna, thank you so much. as always, I learned a lot from you, and you are endlessly engaging and insightful. And the impression I have of your teaching over the years, knowing you now for a while, is the extent that you show your students that you care, and that came through today. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. Now it's my pleasure to bring or to ask Samantha Bickert, Professor Samantha Bickert, who's a lecturer in business communications at the University of Nevada, to join us. Welcome, Samantha, to summer camp.
Hello, hi, thanks, Mike. Do you need me to share my screen then too?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. I'll go ahead and do that. And everyone, I'll try to match Donna's energy. Man, Donna, you were amazing. And I know we met last week, but holy smokes, I want to be one of your students. So I will make sure I'll try to stay on time as well. And I did see earlier in the sessions for today that where is it? Here we go. That there is someone from UNR here, I believe, unless they've left for the day, but I'm excited to see someone else from my campus here. But yes, I'm from the University of Nevada, Reno, so not Las Vegas, I'm in Reno. And I'm going to talk about how I get students engaged from day one. I have a leadership background. Also, because it is summer camp, I wanted to share, I coordinated summer camps for 7 summers, and then I was a camp counselor for 2. So I am all about summer camp, and I'm very excited to be talking with you all today. So I wanted to start off by talking about my teaching philosophy, some of my personal strengths, and my teaching styles. And I teach within the management department in the College of Business. And I truly believe that we're developing better managers for our workplaces. And to be effective managers, we need to understand how we personally operate. In my class, we start the semester by doing character traits checks and talking about, like, why are we doing this? Why are we learning this? So I share with students, this is why I teach. And I love teaching. I come from education and working with teenagers and youth development, and I come from industry. So I am not a traditional professor with a doctorate, but I have a master's in leadership and education, and I love what I do. So let's see. Course details. I teach a business communications class. It's the professional development class that every single student in the College of Business has to go through. And I have 50 to 60 students in each of the 4 sections that I teach. And some of you are probably like, whoa, that's a lot for a communications class. And it is, because in a professional development communications class, you have to talk, you have to engage, you have to do activities within the class. I do a lot of application-based activities, and students on the first day are like, oh my gosh, I have to talk. I'm like, yes, you have to talk, because when you walk into a staff meeting at work, you can't just sit there and not say anything. So with that being said, I prepare students for internships, how to apply for jobs, and how to be young professionals in the workplace. So a few things that I want to point out prior to using Top Hat is that the challenges that I had were large group discussions. How many of us have polled the class and asked them a question, and the same 1 to 2 students raise their hand to participate, or the 5 students use their nonverbals and everyone else just sits there like a deer caught in headlights, which drives me nuts. And you know what? I'm so candid with them that I tell them it drives me nuts. I'm like, I want you guys to engage with me. And there was just that lack of engagement. The quieter, more introverted students who are afraid to speak in front of others, who don't have that confidence, they weren't engaging with the content, thus resulting in me not receiving quality work that was being turned in for the assignments. So setting the tone on the first day. These are 3 key aspects that I'm going to share with you that really work, and I end up getting majority of my class. I'm very proud to say this, and I've done the math. I have about 98% of students who participate in class just by doing these things and using Top Hat. And it's great because if you haven't used Top Hat, you'll soon learn that it'll show you the percentage of students who are attending that day and how many of them participate. So it's awesome. So 1, I'm going to cover course organization, folders. if you go to my, my personal life, my home, my bedroom, chaos. Work, class, very organized. I have an introduction and overview, weeks with dates. Second, getting students to engage, doing a first day check-in activity that I carry on throughout the semester, and then also doing an expectations management activity. And then lastly, immediate feedback, doing weekly reflections. And so I'm sure you guys are hearing a theme here. I'm going to be echoing things that Dr. Lang said, modeling engagement, building community with your students, and then discussing expectations with them. And even Donna, she had shared very similar things. And I think that's why last week we had such a great conversation when we met with Eric Gardner and Top Hat, because we have so many things in common when it comes to our teaching. So now talking about course organization, I lay out the course with an intro and overview. As you can see right over here on the left, I actually use the Top Hat text for business communications, and I'm teaching asynchronously this summer. Students have loved it. They have absolutely loved the course, and in my immediate feedback that I get from students, they tell me how much they appreciate how organized the class is. And it's simply just, I put in here AI use and expectations. In other classes, I've put in about me, so they know more about the instructor. And then as you can see, going further down, organizing it by dates. Week 1 of the semester, here are the dates, June 10th to June 14th, because it's a mini-mester. And just putting every single thing that they need into the folders so that they have everything they need to be successful. And it provides clarity, it provides transparency to the students, and also it eliminates emails that I get from students. Think about how many emails you get. I teach 200 students-ish a semester. Some of you might teach 300 to 400, depending on the university that you're at. And how often do you look at your email inbox and you just go, oh, and I know my husband, who also works at the university, receives hundreds of emails a day. And if I ever did a TED Talk, it would be how to eliminate emails. And I truly believe it's because I give students everything that they need to understand the course, to find the answers to the questions that they have, and to be lifelong learners. I tell them to exhaust all options before coming to me with a question. And it's not to say that I won't help them. I tell them, I'm like, you guys, I want to help you. I do, but I also want to help foster that critical thinking, that problem solving, and lifelong learning. Because in the workplace, your manager is not going to want you knocking on their door every 5 minutes, asking them a question. So here, I'm already starting to build those skills just by the way I organize my class. So day 1 check-in, it's a little nerve-wracking. It's nerve-wracking for me. I'm meeting 50 to 60 20-year-olds that I've never met before, and you've got so many eyes on you. And naturally, I just have a lot of nervous excitement within me when I don't know people. And so I try to ease any tension students have, excitement, anxiety, by checking in with them. And I'm always nervous on the first day, and I tell them that. So here you can see in my Top Hat that I ask them how they're feeling. And I use emojis because I'm quirky and weird like that. So here I've got the nervous, anxious emoji, excited, tired, the beer mugs clinking, like maybe I'm teaching a 4 or 5 o'clock class and the students would rather be at happy hour. And I'm like, you know what, so would I. Whatever it might be, maybe I need an extra cup of coffee, but it really helps me gauge how students are feeling, and I can relate to them in that moment. And this is something that I do carry on throughout the semester, and I adjust the vibe of the class each week, depending on how students are. My class, we have 0 exams. That's one reason why students love the class. But I'm like, hey, I know midterms are going on. All you guys had to do for this class was a reflection. How are your other exams going? Maybe let's breeze through some of these things in class, and I'll let you out 15 minutes early, whatever it might be. So I do this every week, maybe sometimes every day, just depends. And I check in with students. And it just shows that I care. I care about how they're feeling. And I hope they care about me too, because I'm human. And then next, getting students involved on the first day doing an expectations management activity. And this is something that I used to do when I was in a manager role working in industry. So just like any employer, any manager, we have to set expectations, but I do think that we forget that this should be a shared experience with the people we work with and oversee. So on the first day, students participate in an online discussion in Top Hat, and they answer the following questions. What do you expect of yourselves? So it kind of puts the learning back on them, like having them think about, oh, what do I want to get out of this course? And then what expectations do I have of my peers? So they're creating that safe, welcoming environment. And then lastly, what expectations do you have of the instructor? So this helps me understand the types of teaching styles I might have to adjust or bring forth in my teaching throughout the semester to meet the needs of the students. And then here you'll see hidden, students have said, I expect to participate in class and gain better communication skills. I expect to form connections that might help me get a job someday or simply make friends. And I will tell you, people have made friends in my class over the 5 years that I've been teaching. And I love hearing that from students. And then I know that some of you might think this is a little skeptical. I might be allowing the students too much of a voice, but really at the end of the day, this is their learning experience. And I want to make sure they are having the best experience possible. I am a people pleaser too. If anyone knows the True Colors personality inventory, I'm a total blue. So anyway, I do want to let you know that prior to this activity, I do set my non-negotiables and my expectations as an instructor. That's part of my whole introduction to the class on the first day is here's what to expect about the assignments, the flow of the class, and the types of behaviors that I'm looking for in the class. And it just, like I said, it helps students have that voice, and then they do feel more invested in the class because they help set that culture. And we do these same things in our professional workplaces. And if you remember at the beginning, I shared that I work within the management department. So teaching them these management skills, these are all things that students can do when they become managers. So giving students a voice and weekly reflections. This is that immediate feedback. And I don't know if anyone else is like me, but I cringe when I get feedback, and it is really hard sometimes. But I have learned, I've become a better instructor because of it. And it's the first assignment I have students complete the first week of the semester. And these are the questions that I ask them. What is the most significant thing you learned, and how will you apply it in the future? It helps those students retain that information from the week. What questions do you have regarding the material? Maybe I forgot something. Maybe I didn't cover something thoroughly enough, or maybe a student just needs more help understanding specific content. And if I have the same question from students, I can say, oh, okay, well, I didn't hit that learning objective this week, so I'll make sure to cover it the following week. Did you or did you not feel supported by your instructor or peers? This will let me know, was I as attentive as I should have been to the students this week? I've had students who've actually shared with me, in my small group discussion this week, so-and-so said this and I felt really uncomfortable. So then I can say, oh, okay, well, that's not a part of our class agreement. That's not a part of our class expectations that we set together. Let me address that in class. And then I ask them for feedback for me. Like, do you have any feedback on my teaching style? Was I reading too much from the slides? Or do you have a suggestion on what I could have done better? Or maybe they have an idea for an activity. So I do these weekly. And it is extra work for me, but that's okay. This is how I get to know students, and I do respond to them. I respond to everyone. And then here is student feedback that I received, and I know I'm going over time. Sorry, Mike. But I just this is what I live for. I love when students, it's not really yes, the students are making me feel good, but just to read the things that students are understanding the material and they're practicing it and applying it to the real world, that's what matters to me. And that is why I love the class that I teach. And I think it's because I didn't have a class like this in college. I had to learn from messing up in industry, in my jobs. And I'm like, you guys, here, I'm giving you all the tools you need to be successful as professionals. So, you know, students, they say that I show that I really care, application-based activities, I engage, I get them out of their comfort zones. So, yeah, and then I get that one, you know, the 1% of students who don't like the course, which you're always going to get those, and that's totally fine. And I respect their opinion and their thoughts. So, and I tell them that as well. But just the fact that they feel comfortable enough sharing that with me says a lot. So for my final thoughts on the things that I had to say, just setting the tone by having students help create the environment that they want for this semester, have them be a part of that process. And then doing weekly check-ins and reflections. I know I'm not on top of my teaching every single time I walk into the classroom. And you know, every class ebbs and flows. One section is more lively than the other. And then also just being courageous enough to seek feedback from students. One of my worries as I grow older, I guess I'll say, or like as I move forward into my career as an instructor is, am I gonna still be relevant in the future? And I won't know that if I don't seek feedback from students. So I believe that was my last slide. So thanks everyone. I hope I shared some valuable tips and tricks for you, and I'm happy to answer any questions, Mike.
Thank you, Samantha. I love that final call to action. Be courageous enough to ask students for feedback. What a wonderful thought. I also want to just highlight that as somebody who spends a lot of my spare time reading, you know, the latest on the scholarship on teaching and learning, the two of you provided a masterclass in how to foster student accountability and engagement. So thank you for sharing all of your insights and for implementing in such a successful way all of the evidence-based practices that we read about. It's really, really evident in your courses. So thank you, Donna. Thank you, Samantha. A couple of questions I've prepared, but one I want to pull from the chat first. It's from an anonymous member, but it's a great question. And it's, when connecting with students, how do you find the line between oversharing versus presenting yourself authentically? And I think there was this theme that came through in both of your practices about, you know, having making mistakes, and it's okay to be imperfect. And so, like, where is the line when building connections with students between, you know, let's say oversharing and still being your authentic self?
I think you discover that line when you cross it. In other words, that's not really a helpful answer. But in other words, sometimes you have to make the mistake to recognize that, ooh, maybe that wasn't something I should have shared. And what's cool is that you'll become a fast learner. And so you'll be careful not to do that again. But for the most part, I've never, ever had that concern, because usually the motive behind my sharing is well understood. Maybe it isn't conveyed in the exact statement, but because I've already generated this, not generated, but helped develop this relationship where I genuinely care about you, and at the same time still have high expectations of you, they know that if I overshare, maybe share something that I shouldn't about myself, the motive was different. The thing I would be careful about is some things we can share can trigger other students' traumas. So you have to be cautious. So even though I might have faced racial abuse or slurs or things, I have to be careful how much I share, because that could trigger something for some of my students who may not like myself. I'm African American. For the most part, you can see who I am. But I had a Native American student in my class for 2 semesters. I didn't know he was Native American. And he shared in the second semester, almost at the end, my tribe. And I asked him what tribe. And so it turns out some people, they had to hide their identity. And so me sharing too much about the abuse that I may have dealt with or experienced, even though for the most part, I just figured they were slow. They just didn't figure things out, like the Tuskegee Airmen did. I have to be careful that I don't trigger trauma for my students.
Yeah, and Donna, I really love what you said there. And I was reading, I was just going into the chat too, and a participant shared, you're oversharing when what you share is for your needs and benefits rather than the student's need. And that really resonates with me because the class that I teach is very subjective content, and students may believe in communicating one way versus then the way that I communicate. So I do a lot of personality inventories, character traits checks, and communication style inventory activities for my particular class because students need to understand we all come to business communications with different perspectives, and you're going to be working with so many different people. And again, as a manager, I definitely in industry cross the line between manager and employee where it's a lesson I learned back in my 20s, but it's a story I share with students that they just go, whoa. And I'm like, yeah. And you know what, you guys, because I'm a blue personality, I know that about myself. And I know I struggle where there's, there's a gray area for me. And it's something as a manager and instructor, I am still learning to practice. So every semester, I always have to be conscious and aware of, okay, this semester, I got to work on XYZ because I am a person who overshares. I'm like my mom. So yeah.
Thank you both for answering so candidly and honestly. We should have predicted that given the nature of your presentations today. So another question that I would love to hear your thoughts on is when it comes to putting a lot of this into practice, one challenge that I know my team has heard is that there's some resistance from students to start learning and participating this way because that's certainly not the norm, right? And so how have you how do you address sort of student resistance to being more engaged in class differently, to coming to class with different expectations? How has it come up? How have you handled it? And what advice would you have for any audience members today who want to start putting it into practice and might be reticent because of the student reactions in the first week or two?
Yeah. Samantha, is it okay if I go first? Because as I talked about these white hairs, I'll forget what the question if I go second. Oh, it's good to laugh. I have good material, all based on my own activity. But I find that in order to help with that resistance, I had a colleague, a part-time faculty member. I used to be a dean a long time ago, and he told me, you got to speak the students' language, and the students' language is their grades. So I do give participation points. It's not much. It's 0.5 if they participate. And once they know that it counts for points, shut up. They are going to answer whatever the question is, whatever is required, even though it might only be 1% of their grade because they haven't figured out the math yet. That when you have 10 questions worth 0.5 and all of them together worth 1%, they haven't figured it out, but still they know it's worth points. And so that's how I've done it. And then also too, the way that I respond when students do participate. In other words, when I use that anonymous word question, which I love because you can put everyone's answers, they can see all the different answers on there. And sometimes I'll, with the word answer, it can be anonymous. So I know who said it, but their classmates don't. So when I compliment each person, I find something good in that. I say, I really appreciate you for being honest. That's really hard to do sometimes. When I compliment them or encourage them or give them kudos for participating anonymously, and in other words, I don't know who they are, which is really cool. That sends a message to them that, hey, this is safe, this is belonging. I know this isn't something I'm used to, but I feel empowered now. I feel valid. I feel valued.
Yeah, and talking about participation points or attendance points. So I require attendance in my class. I'm like, dude, you guys, like, you're the attendance points, that's the money you're earning for coming to class, coming to work. My class is truly like, treat it like a job type of thing. And so I give them the opportunity, like, hey, there's a bunch of extra credit. If you choose not to come to class, there are different ways for you to earn points. But to get students engaged, because I think students now are just so bombarded with technology. And because of my leadership background, I used to be a leadership facilitator and team building facilitator at another university in Wisconsin. And it's very natural to me to get students up and moving. And I have so many team builders in the back of my pocket, whether they're 20 minutes long or they're 10 minutes or 5 minutes. And I teach for an hour and 15 minutes, Tuesdays and Thursdays. I do get students up and moving. So to break them away from that screen to where they're actually engaging and talking as if they were sitting in a staff meeting and they're solving a business problem there in class. So, you know, Top Hat is great for those students who don't want to engage face-to-face with their peers or me. And then I have Top Hat for those students who would much rather share their voice on the platform.
Can I add one thing too? I forgot that I do with attendance. I'm glad you mentioned about attendance. Now, what I do, I would not say that you should model this, but I'm just going to share what I do. So I have collected data, and that when a student misses, and I got this from another set of colleagues from a different college, when a student misses 5 or more class periods, their grade usually drops. And so I tell them up front, if you miss more than 5 days, you have 5 days that, hey, you know, life happens, it's okay. But if you miss on that 6th day, your grade drops 10%. And so that means if you have a 90%, it goes to an 80%. And I grade on a AB 90%, ABCD 80-90% scale. I mean, on a percent scale. And, but even though I say that, you guys, I never enforce it because I don't think it's legal. So, but I do put it in my syllabus that if you miss more than 5 days, then your grade will drop 10%. And that sounds really punitive, but it's really for my students because a lot of them are first-time college students that are in my class. They don't know, they're not used to having the flexibility of not coming to class like when they were in high school. So when they get to college, they have that flexibility. And so they think they don't have to come. And so I just helped nip that in the bud. And I told them, I said, I would be so angry if my teacher, and I had a B in the course and I earned that B and my teacher dropped my B to a C. I would be so angry. Wouldn't you? And they go, yeah. I said, so don't miss more than 5 days. I never enforce it. They're already going to get a D once they miss more than 5 days.
So there are many ways we can take this discussion. I do want to be cognizant of time. And first, thank you both. And then before we get to a quick demonstration of a couple of the activities that you do that I'll rebuild in Top Hat for the audience, I do want to remind everybody to participate in our faculty AI survey. We would love to understand the relationship and how you're thinking about evidence-based practices with relation to AI. There is a gift card available that you can possibly win if you share your email with us, and that link will be shared at the end of the webinar. So please keep an eye out for that. Because we also will be sharing how-to videos after the webinar closes and throughout the weeks of summer camp. So if we can't cover everything in the next 3 to 5 minutes, don't worry, but we'll be sending how-to videos out around. So thank you both, Samantha and Donna, for your answers today. And now we'll jump into a quick demonstration of some of the activities that you have been building in your own Top Hat courses. And so we'll put them together for the audience today so they can see how to start building a course that kicks off engagement right from day one. So I want to highlight immediately Samantha's great idea or the great practice that she has of organizing her course. This is very easy to do in Top Hat, and being very explicit with students, be your class online, in person, hybrid, where they need to begin is very, very key. So folders are the name of the game. Everything in the list of course content here in your Top Hat course will also be replicated in its organization in the Top Hat gradebook. So everything you see in your list of course content will also be replicated there. So I've already created a folder that says before class. I'm going to click add to course. I'm going to add a new folder. We'll call this one during class, and then I'll add a second one for after class too, for post-class work. And then we'll start to populate folders with activities. Here we go. So before class, this is going to be the start of the term. What I want to do is have the students read the syllabus and then comment on it and bring it to life. We heard about the syllabus as a living document earlier today. And so there's a couple ways to make this happen in your course. Now, I do want to highlight that we have a nice sample week prepared here. So what I'm going to do is simply drag my sample content that I've already created into this course. And all I've done, or to this folder, all I've done is copy and paste the text from my syllabus into Top Hat Pages, which you can access by clicking Add to Course, and you want to select a page. So I'm going to edit this because, as I say, I've already created some content, and so I want to create a couple of those discussions to kick things off. So the first one is one of these discussions to introduce yourself to your classmates, right? So we'll call this Intro 1. We'll give it a title. We'll say, what is one thing you'd like your classmates to know about you? And then, pardon me for the spelling mistakes. Every Top Hat discussion has the opportunity to be graded for correctness or participation. In this case, there's no right answer. We're going to select participation, and then I'm going to hit save. So it's right there, ready for students to answer. And then I'm going to create a second one. This one's going to be slightly different. I want students to introduce themselves to me, but give me something important that I should know about them as we go through the course. So we'll call this Intro 2. What is something I should help you in this class? This answer is only visible to the professor. So this was a practice that I've learned from one of our longtime Top Hat users. It's very, very effective for getting students to share something that can really help you know them, and it could be any kind of assistance that they need to make sure that they get through the class. And so in this case, responses shouldn't be seen by everybody. They should be seen only by the professor, and they're not going to be anonymous. So if I'm in Donna's class, Donna will know that this is Mike responding, and these are the things I want her to know about me in order to help me succeed in the class. And I'll make this one, I'll actually, you know what? I do want to know about all of my students, so I will keep a point on this for participation so we can track who answered. I'm going to click save. And then I also have created one of the imperfect videos introducing the class, as Donna has said. So all I've done here is kept the link easy for the sake of this demonstration. I would delete that, of course, before sharing with students. And now I'm going to click what we call the interactive elements toolbar here. I'm going to insert an iframe, because this is how we're going to get the video into the Top Hat page. There it is. I can get rid of this link now for the sake of presentation. Then I'm going to hit save, so I can save my progress as I'm building out my interactive syllabus. Now, the other nice thing that students can do with the syllabus in Top Hat, you can embed questions. So I've embedded a couple of discussions. You can embed questions in the same way. You can use Top Hat ACE to do that, to generate a syllabus quiz. You can also use Top Hat class threads to then keep the syllabus a living document. So once it's enabled, we can go to any part of the any part of the syllabus. Let's say one of these. This is all of the learning objectives. And then we can ask a question or start a thread specifically for the rest of the class about the learning objectives. Let's say in something like this. In which class did we cover first two objectives? Of course, very superficial for the sake of just this quick demonstration, but that's sort of the simple activity that you students sort of can engage in to keep the syllabus a living document and to come to class prepared. One question that both of you, I think, have used a lot is this idea of a Likert scale. And so I'm going to add two versions of that question. So the first one will be a text-based question, and I'm going to simply ask students, how much do you agree with the following statement? Yeah, I will be official to my education this year. So Top Hat nicely pre-populates answers for you. Once again, remove my spelling mistake. I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to turn this eventually into a think, pair, share question. So before I do that, I'm though going to add to course. I'm going to create one of Donna's click on target questions, the kind that exactly the one that she used in her class to understand how students are doing. So once again, everything starts with that add to course button. and I'm adding to course a question. The question I've chosen is click on target. How are you feeling? Image. I'm going to upload an image of exactly her slide. There it is. And then as I present this in class, we'll see where students have clicked. It will produce a heat map, and I'll know how students are feeling based on their answers to this question. And this is exactly what Donna has created. I can select number of attempts in here. They'll each have one attempt. I'm gonna click save. Great. So we already have really easily the makings of some before class work. Students know exactly where to begin, and then a couple of questions already to go for in-class activities. Of course, I would want to teach via a slideshow. For the sake of time, I won't upload one, but I'll simply highlight again, add to course, and we're going to add a slide upload here, PowerPoint or PDF. If you upload a PowerPoint, all of your speaker notes are saved, and you can present with the presenter view that you know and love. So that's a fantastic way to present a slideshow in Top Hat. And then you can drag and drop your questions to exactly where you need in the slideshow, which I can demonstrate here in this sample presentation. You'll see here's a sample slideshow I've uploaded with questions up front to encourage engagement, check-ins, and so on. So for the sake of time, I'll stop it there, and I will stop sharing my screen and thank our audience today. Thank Donna and Samantha for your fantastic presentations. Once again, remind of the AI survey coming up, and I think I'll pass it over to Eric to close the session today.
Great, thanks Mike, and thanks Samantha and Donna, wonderful presentation. Just a quick highlight, summer camp is back next week, and we're going to be focusing on engaging students, I guess, even more, because there's a lot of focus on engaging students this week as well. So we've got two sessions on tap, one, Faculty Insights, creating a dynamic lecture experience, and then you're also going to hear from a professor who's created her own unique custom interactive textbook. So we're going to talk about crafting and customizing content with Top Hat, and we'll also be giving some demos of how you actually do that. So with that, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your summer, no less. So with that, thanks again from all of us at Top Hat, and enjoy the rest of your week.